My SolidWorks project was done on an electric standing fan. So the inspiration behind this idea was I wanted to build a standing fan that had rotational fan blades to produce directional airflow towards the top, and the fan will have a circular base at the bottom with a cylindrical stand to hold up the fan as it goes up to the top. The top of the fan will have a housing unit where the motor will go, which will then be used to power those fan blades. You can see an example picture on the right of the kind of what I was going for when I was building my fan. For my project schedule, I started out with the project ideas on the 4th of June. Kind of spent a few days just brainstorming ideas, figuring out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go with the project. I originally wanted to start out building a Ferris wheel. That was kind of my plan A, but my plan B was an electric fan. The reason I decided to go with plan B was just because I felt like it was a little bit more up my alley. I figured I wouldn't have as many challenges, but it would also be something that would challenge me and I would have to learn different ways to use SolidWorks, but also stay on target with my process. For the brainstorming project parts, that started on the 9th of June. That was kind of just figuring out what parts were going to be part of my actual project itself. So that was kind of determining the base and the fans at the top and the stand and how those were going to kind of look on my actual part themselves and how they were going to assemble together. Starting on the 14th of June is when I started the process of building my project parts. That lasted me a little bit less than about 2 weeks because I was trying to build out the parts the best way I could with the right dimensions so that they would all fit with each other when I eventually assembled them together. You can see on about the 27th of June, I did actually assemble all of those parts together. It wasn't too hard once you have all of the parts already made, already built to fit together. Assembling them is not too difficult. So it only took me one day, and then again, it only took me one day with the animation and the project presentation because all of my parts were already finished at that point. For the brainstorming process, like I said, I wanted to choose between either an electric fan or a Ferris wheel design. I wanted to do something that would be fun to build, but also challenging. That would push me a little bit, help me learn SolidWorks in different ways that I wasn't entirely familiar with. One of the reasons that led me to the electric fan was because I was really interested how the fan blades were going to be created. I thought that was going to be a little different because I've never actually bended any extrusions on SolidWorks before, so I thought that would be a fun little challenge to learn and be able to get a little bit of depth on that. And I also wanted to design something with a combination of rectangular and circular patterns. I didn't really want anything that was either all circular or all rectangular because it takes a little bit of finesse to try to work them together, and I feel like getting a little bit more experience in that would be good for me for the future. This is what the finished product looked like. It starts with the isometric view on the left view in the middle, and then the front view on the right. You can see how all the parts fit together. Ultimately with the assembly, starting with the base at the bottom, with a stand in the middle, and then the motor housing unit at the top, along with the fan blades. These are some of the major parts of my project, starting with the fan blades on the left. Like I was saying before, the fan blades were pretty difficult to make as I had to use different techniques that I'd never used before. One of those techniques was the loft feature. The fan stand clip in the middle, like I was mentioning again, I had to hand draw all the lines on the outside of that indent and then obviously use the circular pattern to wrap it around the part so that they would all be aligned properly. And then ultimately you finish it off with a fan base. Yeah, that was not too difficult to make, but I did have to get a little bit more familiar with the fillet feature just so I can kind of fill it in and smooth it out so it looks like an actual fan does. Some of the new features used during the project, like I already mentioned, the loft feature. One of the main features I used was the loft feature just to create the blades. Like I said, I've never actually bent any extrusions before, so that was a little challenging for me. I had to figure out a way to do that, and that helped me kind of create the look of a traditional fan blade where it pushes the air forward, where it's kind of bent a little bit towards the edges. The circular pattern feature, I'd use the circular pattern feature a lot. I used it on the fan blades, I used it on that stand clip, and I used it again, I think on the base. So yeah, it was good to get a little bit of experience with that. The fillet feature, I'd use the fillet feature a lot during this project. I'd use it a bunch on the base. I'd use it on all of the fan blades to kind of smooth everything out, make it look sleek so it wasn't so rectangular and all that. And yeah, I think it turned out pretty well, and I also got a lot of experience using the fillet feature in the end. This is a 360 video of my project. And yeah, that should be it. Thank you.